Hello everybody, it's great to be here on Aish TV and it's great to have everybody listening and watching. I want to thank you all for tuning in and for joining us today. I also want to thank today's sponsors. Today's talk is dedicated by Michael, David, and Ethan Steinberg in memory of our wife and mother, Lisa Shapiro. Elisha Chaya, Bas Yaakov Alea Shalom, may her neshama have an aliyah. May our learning today and this class be an elevation for her soul. So, Rosh HaShanah is on our minds. We're just a couple days away. And I want to share a story with you. When I was 15 in LA, growing up, that was the age where you can actually get your permit and start driving. Now, in retrospect, 15 was a little bit too young, but that was the age at the time. So I remember, I think it was like maybe 3 days after I got my permit, and I start driving on my own, and I start driving to school. Now, every single day I used to walk to school, and I had the same route how I walked to school. But now all of a sudden I get to drive. 3 days in, driving to school, my third day of driving, and I make my right turn to get to school. All of a sudden I hear that sound. That sound that none of us like to hear, that makes our heart drop, right? Woo woo! I look around, oh my gosh, rear view mirror, I see the blue and red lights. It's over. I can't believe it. I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. I start freaking out. I'm 15 years old. My hands are like clutched. I pull over. My hands are clutched to the steering wheel. My palms are sweaty. I'm so nervous. Officer comes to the window. License and registration, please. They give them their license and registration. I'm like, it's over. I'm going to prison for life, Shows up. He says, you made a right turn on red. I was like, I know. I didn't realize there was no right turn on red, Anyway, gives me the ticket. He says, there's your court date. Court date? Court? I can't go to court. I'm 15. I'm like, I was so nervous. I come home. I was dreading telling my parents, you're not going to believe this. I'm going to jail. Right? I come home. I tell my parents, I said, look, I got a ticket, Now, my father grew up in Brooklyn. Kind of tough sort of environment, tough upbringing. And he says, boy, I remember those cops. I remember those cops, those New York cops and those New York judges. Boy, are they tough. Let me tell you, I'll never forget, he was scaring the heck out of me. Let me tell you, those cops, they're going to show up. They got to be there. They're going to be at this case. And they show up with their shiny black boots. And boy, those judges, they are merciless. Merciless, I'll tell you. And I'm like, my heart is beating. My court date, judgment day is coming. It's over. Finally, the big day arrives. My father comes with me. We go to court, LA County judge. I'm sitting there in front of her. She looks at me, she says, Tzvi. I said, yes. Says here you made a right turn on red in a no right turn zone. I said, yes. Now she sees this little yeshiva guy all nervous, right? She says, were you aware that it's a no right turn on red? I said, well, I kind of knew because I walk that way, but I'm not used to walking. I'm not used to driving. I usually walk. So you knew. I said, well, yeah, I guess in the back of my mind, I did know. She says, and there was a sign there. I'm like, yes, you know what? Now that I think about it, there is a sign there. She says, Well, Tzvi, was there a tree by any chance blocking the sign? I said, no, there was no tree. She says, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. She says, maybe there was a truck. Was there a truck in front of you? Sometimes there's those big trucks in front of us and it kind of blocks us from seeing the sign. Maybe you didn't see the sign because there was a big truck in front of you, huh? Maybe, yeah? I said, no truck. I saw the sign. She says, so you saw the sign and you made the red. I said, yeah. She said, Now at this point, she says, you sure there's nothing that kind of... And I said, no. And my father's looking at me and he's like, come on. She's trying to help you out here, And he's like motioning to me, but I'm just like, I'm telling the story as it is. And she's trying to help me out. And she looks at me and she says, well then, Tzvi, I've got some bad news for you. And she's staring at me. I look over at my father and he's staring at me. And I'm getting nervous. And she says, here's the bad news. Now, before I tell you what the bad news is, I want to share a thought with you about Rosh HaShanah, and then I'm going to come back to the end of this court case. So hang with me for a second, okay? Rosh HaShanah is a crazy time. It's one of those, I think it's one of the most confusing holidays, right? You think about this for a second, right? We're going to stand there on the first night of Rosh Hashanah at our tables, having a beautiful meal with hopefully family, friends if we can. If not, that's usually what happens. And the table is set, and there's food, and there's drink, and there's wine, and there's a 3-course meal, and we're literally celebrating. We're going to eat, we're going to drink, we're going to sing, right? We're going to celebrate. It's fun. We're having a good time. And then we open up, and Kiddush is perfectly in line with that. Because all of a sudden we say, V'atiten lanu Hashem Elokeinu bi'ahava moadim l'simcha, right? Thank you, Hashem, for giving us this moed l'simcha, this holiday for simcha. Chagim muzmanim l'sason, right? Holidays for rejoicing. And we're even saying it in Kiddush. This is a great time. This is awesome. And so it's all in sync. The Kiddush, the celebration, the food, the drink, it's all great. We're setting ourselves up to begin this holiday of celebration. And then, jump ahead 15 hours, we're sitting there in shul. And all of a sudden, in shul, we get up to that part of davening, that part that every single year, my father was like, oh, pay attention, we're up to this part, right? And he would always make sure that I didn't miss this. And I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad I didn't miss it. We get up to Nasana Tokef. The powerful, powerful prayer that's like the climactic point of Rosh Hashanah davening. And Asana Tokef goes ahead and says that Hashem is sitting as the Dayan, as the judge. V'yodea v'ed, he knows everything's happening. V'chosei, v'sisko kodesh kachos, and he's writing and signing and sealing everything that has been forgotten. All the things we wiped out of our minds, but he didn't. V'tiftach sechot, and he opens up the book of remembrances. V'chosei Yaakov, and everybody's signature has to sign on that. And the shofar blows. Umalachim yechafezun. And the angels are trembling. And they're overcome with terror, seizing them. And they cry out. All the angels cry out in heaven. Hine yom adin. It's the day of judgment. They scream out. The angels are trembling. It's the day of judgment. Judgment day. And Asana Tokef goes on to say what happens. Lift code, every single person is going to be remembered. And we say, Mavir tzono tachas shifto. And we pass like sheep underneath the staff. One by one, every single person passes and nobody can escape and nobody gets by. V'tavir v'sispar v'simna v'sifkod. And every single person is counted and accounted for. Everything we've done is remembered. V'tichtov is gzar dinam. And we're inscribed our verdict. Whoa. That doesn't sound like a day of celebration. Not in the slightest. Okay, imagine me celebrating on that court date, right? In court there. Let's have wine. Come on, judge. Let's have some food. What's going on? And I remember growing up, when I would read this, and at some points during the high holiday season, I would think to myself, okay, it's over, it's it. I'm waiting for the lightning to strike me, it's coming down, the lightning. It's over. And I was so scared. It's a time of trepidation, not celebration. But which one is it? Because it is called a Chag. It is called a Chag. It is called a Yom Tif. We are eating and drinking and celebrating. We're not fasting and sitting on the floor and crying. It's a day of celebration. So what is this day? In fact, I'll tell you, it's not just us in our experience today that has this confusing sort of paradox. But this goes back thousands of years. The time of Nehemiah, after a 70-year exile, the Jewish people start returning to Israel. Right? After they return to the destroyed Israel. They begin rebuilding of the temple, rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash. And as they're rebuilding it, so much Torah and so much had been forgotten because it had been 70 years without Torah study, 70 years of being in exile. And Nehemiah, the prophet, comes to them. And he starts reading from the Torah to them. And he's reading to them. And as he teaches them Torah, they start to cry. They start to cry. And they start to weep. Possibly about all that had been forgotten. And he says to them, no crying, no weeping, no wailing. It's Rosh HaShanah. It's a day to eat, rejoice, sing, go home, send gifts to friends, celebrate. It's a happy day. But again, you see the same thing. They're crying. He says, no, don't cry, celebrate. What's going on exactly? What is Rosh Hashanah? This day seems to be so confusing. And there's even a Gemara. The Gemara says, the Talmud teaches us that what would happen is, the Gemara points out how the Jewish people on our day of judgment are so different than the world around. The world around us, come judgment day, they put on black if they have to go to court, the day of judgment, and so on and so forth. For us, we put on white. We know we're so confident that it's all going to be good, and we're celebrating, we're eating and drinking. The Gemara even points this out. There's something strange about this day. It doesn't seem like a day of judgment. On one hand, I have this lightning that I'm waiting to come down on me for. On one hand, we're screaming out how we're being seized with terror because of, the day of judgment. On the other hand, we dip the apple in the honey and we're all having a good time. What's Rosh Hashanah really about? So in order to answer this and to bring out the essence of Rosh Hashanah, I think we have to understand the way we as Jewish people look at the Jewish holidays. For us, we don't look at time as something linear, where here's where, the event happened, and every year on that day, we look back and we remember what happened once upon a time. We don't do that. Holidays for us are not a day of remembering something of once upon a time. It's not. We look at time differently. We look at time as a spiral. Spiral. It goes like this. An event happens here, and we're going to revisit that. And as time goes on over the years, we always revisit, but not just remembering it, we actually going back to the event and tapping into the energy and the kochos, the spiritual powers that exist that are intrinsic within that day. And we don't remember it, but we re-experience it and relive it. Because it's going to happen. It happens again every single year on that day. That's how we look at time, and that's how we look at Jewish holidays. It's not a remembering, it's a reliving or re-experiencing of the original, of what had happened. And that it still exists today, every single year on that day. Whatever originally happened still exists. So what happened on Rosh Hashanah? So we say it in the Machzor, we say it when we daven every year. We sing in many shuls, they sing, Hayoim haras olam, right? Today's the birthday of the world. Sounds better in Hebrew. Right? We say that today is the day that the world was created. That's Rosh Hashanah. On this day, Rosh Hashanah, the world was created. Now it's a machlokes in the Gemara exactly what date, but putting that aside for a second, what Rosh Hashanah commemorates is the creation of the world. And if on this day the world was created, then on this day the world is always recreated. Every single year on this day, the world is recreated. Now what does that mean exactly? When the Almighty originally created the world, what he did was, he said, okay, there's a purpose to the world. And if there's a purpose, then everything that I will create will be created for that grand purpose. Now, every year comes back to reassess on Rosh Hashanah, the day of creation where everything was created for a purpose. If something is still fulfilling its purpose, it's reassessed. Great, it needs to continue existing. But if something no longer fulfills its purpose, then it's going to cease to exist. If something is fulfilling its purpose in a tremendous way, then the Almighty reinvests in it even more. It's kind of similar to a company to some degree, right? When a company's created, when they first start a company, you look at what do we need to achieve our goals? And they hire the right staff they need and get the right supplies they need, and they lay out the plan, everything they need for the company to reach its goal. But every year there's an annual assessment, annual review where they review how the company's doing, where it's headed, what we need to do to change things. How do we realign? And every year on that annual review, they say, okay, well, this department actually we don't really need anymore because it's not really, it's kind of stopped doing what it was supposed to be doing. And this department, it's thriving. They're literally doing exactly what we need. So we need to invest more in this department. And so on every single Rosh Hashanah, the Almighty is not punishing us. He's not sending down lightning bolts. We have it all wrong. What he's doing is what he did the first time. He created the world for a purpose. And every year, he's reassessing how we're doing on that purpose. And if something is still fulfilling its purpose, it's still aligned, then the Almighty reinvests. Great, you need another year. In fact, you're doing so well, you need health, wealth, wisdom, you need everything. Keep going. And if we're not, then the Almighty says, well, you don't seem to quite fit into the purpose of creation anymore. You're missing something. Perhaps we need to give you something else to realign you. May not be comfortable, but it'll help you get back to the purpose of creation. It'll help you wake up. And so, he's not throwing down lightning bolts. However, it is still a little bit of a scary time because we are being reassessed, reviewed, if you will. The good news is this. The good news is that as we say in that same paragraph, Hayom Haras Olam, today is the birthday of the world. The good news is that the paragraph continues. And it says, Im kivahanim, im kavadim, right? Whether like children or whether like servants. Meaning to say that yes, the Almighty is judging. The Almighty is reassessing the world on every Rosh HaShanah. But do you know who the Almighty is? Do you know who the judge is? Yes, the judge is sitting on the throne and is reassessing how we're doing and how we fit in and if we fit in and what we need this year. Yes, the judge is there. We're in court. But the judge is your father. The judge is your mother. The judge is your parent who loves you. The judge is somebody who wants you to succeed. That's who the judge is. You know, when I sat there in court with this judge, what was she trying to do? She looked at me. Poor kid. She could tell it was an honest mistake. So she says, look, she's staring at me. She says, I have some bad news for you. And I got nervous, and my father's looking at me, and she's looking at me. Now at this point, she said, Tzvi, we're going to have to give you 2 points. I was thrilled. I was like, 2 points? I thought I was going to jail. This is amazing. Give me points. A 2-pointer, a 3-pointer, I'll take it. Right? I was happy. But she says to me, Tzvi, we're going to have to put you down for parking on the sidewalk. And I said, well, thank you, Your Honor, but actually I wasn't parking on a sidewalk. I was actually making a right turn on her. And my father was like, quiet, right? What was she doing? She feels bad. She knows it's an honest mistake. She knows I'm going to be all right. She wants to reinvest. She doesn't want to break me down. Yes, she's the judge. But at that point, she was like a mother figure. She just wanted me to succeed. She didn't want to have to come down hard. No lightning bolts. She was trying to help me. The judge on Rosh HaShanah, the Almighty, is also our parent. Im kivanim. We're like children. Rachmeinu kirachim av abanim. Have mercy on us like a father does to a child. But there's one big difference between the Almighty as judge and that judge in LA. You know, the judge in LA, what did she want me to do? She wanted me to lie about the past. Make an excuse, lie. That's what she was trying to help me. She thought she was helping me. No judgment there. I'm not judging her either. She was trying to help me. She was trying to get me to lie about the past. The Almighty doesn't want us to lie about our past. He wants us to be honest about our past. But even more so, He wants us to be honest about our future. The Almighty wants us to stand on Rosh HaShanah and say, this is who I am. Yes. But let's put that aside. This is who I want to be. This is who I want to be. I have my sights set on the person that I can become. Going back to our example of the business. It's the department who knows they're under review and says, listen, it's the annual review. I know you're going to choose where to invest in the company, where not. So let me tell you what we're projecting this year. Let us tell you where we're headed. Let me tell you what we want to be in a year from now. And here's why you should invest in us. And the CEO might look at you and say, yeah, but your numbers and kind of how you're doing isn't so great. We understand. But look at the plan. Look where we want to be. Take a look at this. Here's who I want to be this year. And if it's your father who's the judge, if it's your mother who's the judge, which it is, then when Rosh HaShanah comes around for that reassessment, the Almighty says, wow, this is someone sincere. This is someone who's worth investing in. You know, when I used to work as a marriage and family therapist, I remember there was this intervention we used to use. It was called the miracle question. The miracle question essentially was when you had a client come in, and perhaps the client was a bit confused. You would ask them, if you woke up tomorrow morning, and while you were sleeping tonight, a miracle happened. Some miracle. You wake up tomorrow morning, and whatever it is that's bothering you most is gone. A miracle happened, and life is now how you want it to be. The problem that you came here for today, whatever that problem is now solved. What's different in your life? What has changed? And the client will be able to tell you, well, if I woke up tomorrow morning and a miracle happened, I would have no more anxiety, right? So that would help the therapist get a better sense of exactly what's bothering the client. So I like to apply the same idea. Here we are in Rosh HaShanah. I want to apply the miracle question. If a miracle happened and you woke up next to Rosh HaShanah and you were exactly the person you want to be, it's next Rosh HaShanah, you're looking back and you're so proud of yourself. You're so proud of yourself. You finally feel like you've done it. You've made it. The change has happened. You are where you really hoped you would be. What's different? What's different? I want you to ask this question twice. Once for your spirituality, your Torah, your mitzvos, your observance, your belief in the Almighty, the real Jewish part of you, your Jewish daily practice. Ask yourself, if there was one aspect of me that in 1 year I could jump ahead and look back and say, wow, look how I've grown in my Judaism, what's different? What would be the thing? Ask the same question on a personal and interpersonal level. If there was one aspect of my character, my marriage, my parenting, if there was one aspect of who I am as a person, my patience, my anger, so on and so forth, that in 1 year from now I could jump ahead and say, wow, I can't believe I finally did it. I can't believe I did it. I can't believe I reached this point. I can't believe I changed that character trait. What would it be? What would be different? Set your sight on these two things and then work your way back. Work your way all the way back to today, Rosh HaShanah, just a few days before Rosh HaShanah. Now, set yourself up for success by setting your sights on where you want to be, but then scaling all the way back to where we are, and now say, great. What small steps have to happen to get me to that point? Because I'm not going to go 0 to 60. It's not going to happen. And if I can break it down even just a little bit finer, it's something that I've done and I found it to be works so well. Once you've set your sights on the big goal, break it down to a 12-week plan. Approximately 12 weeks from now is Hanukkah. You're like, who's thinking about Hanukkah? But if you can make a 12-week plan for yourself, 3 months, 12 weeks, forget about the whole year, right? I'm going to reassess Hanukkah time. We're going to do a quarterly assessment. Hanukkah, I'm going to reassess. But over the next week to 12 weeks, between now and Hanukkah, each week, I'm going to blank. Something small to reach that big goal. And not only that, each day, I'm going to have some daily practice. So again, you've got your big picture plan of where you want to be in 12 months. You scale it all the way back to where you are today. And let's just lay out the next 12 weeks. 12-week plan. Reassess Hanukkah time. Every single day for the next 12 weeks, I'm going to have this small change that I'm going to make in each of these areas. And each week, at the end of the week, I'm going to reassess how I did that week. And so there's a daily check-in on how you're doing and a weekly check-in on how you're doing. And you do this for 12 weeks straight. You'll be creating new habits. You really begin to set yourself on the path to be able to have success. We're talking about creating a plan. That's what we're talking about. Look, everybody's Rosh Hashanahs around the world are going to be different with COVID and the restrictions, no question about it. But the essence of Rosh Hashanah is really us assessing where we are, and even more than that, assessing where we want to be, setting our sights on where we want to be. If you can do that, if you can be truly, deeply honest, and you can ask yourself this miracle question for your spirituality, for your growth in your practice, as well as your interpersonal and personal traits and relationships, and then you can set yourself on this path, then what we're saying to the Almighty is, I really want to change. I just want to conclude with one idea. So often we say we want to change. New Year's, it's a new year, new you, right? I want to change. A person who says, I want to change, but doesn't actually do anything concrete to change, doesn't really want to change. They want to change. But somebody who really wants to change practically creates some concrete change in their lives and begins to live differently. My blessing to us all is that we don't want to change, but we actually want to change, and therefore we do change. May we be blessed this year, every single one of us, to be able to dig deep, to set our sights on where we want to be. And regardless of what the Rosh Hashanah services look like for us, wherever we are in the world, we should know that personally, we are really growing. We're becoming the people the Almighty wants us to be. And God willing, we should be blessed that the Almighty will invest in every single one of us. And we should all have a happy, sweet New Year. Shana Tova.